Putin demands Russia gain control of Jerusalem Church as promised is a key to start war connecting Russia to Ukraine through eastern Ukraine corridor. Will create a naval war with Turkey. Defeating Turkey gaining access through Black Sea Strait. Down to Jerusalem.
The Russian Orthodox Alexander Nevsky Church in Jerusalem's Old City belies the fact that the religious site has become a flashpoint in the growing diplomatic disputes between Moscow and Jerusalem. Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
And a 15-year-old Jewish boy died for 15 minutes, went to heaven, and was shown the destiny of Israel. Listen to his exact words.
Now I want to go back to something else. You say you could know what was going to happen in the world. When you were there, what did you understand was going to happen?
According to what I knew there, I'm sure I know it. When I was up there, I knew what was going to happen in the world. And according to what I knew, what I told you about the Messiah and everything, I also knew that the redemption and the revelation of the Messiah is going to happen very soon. It's like it's going to happen in the very near future. It's imminent. It's like imminent. The redemption is really coming.
How will we know when it starts?
It will start with a boom. First of all, it has already started.
It has started?
As far as I could see, it has started. It started on September 11th, 2015. It has already started.
On the 27th of Elul last year in 5775.
This year, yes. Last Hebrew year.
We are in 5776, so it started last year, 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Gog and Magog started.
Yeah.
Not sure at this very point as we speak if it is a minor diplomatic crisis meant to create a pressure, a leverage point against Jerusalem, or a game changer in the relationship between Moscow and Israel.
Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
40 years that we have possession of Yerushalayim, there's going to be 5 years of a period of Mashiach ben Yosef, and then Mashiach ben Yosef is going to die, and then the birth of Mashiach ben David is going to start. Now, in history, when did we start having possession of Yerushalayim? After the Six-Day War in 1967. For 2,000 years, we didn't know, nobody had possession, not on Israel or Jerusalem. In 1967, we started having possession of Yerushalayim. So take 40 years that he's talking about, from 1967, that's 2007.
On April the 30th, 2007, Israel Today ran this amazing headline story. Rabbi reveals the name of the Messiah. Rabbi Itzhak Kaduri was famously known for his memorization of the Bible, the Talmud, and other Jewish writings. He was a teacher and a revered master at Nahalat Yitzhak Yeshiva Seminary.
When the Russian army with their vessels and their ships are crossing these sea strait, that when the Russians are going to start a confrontation with the Turks, and they're going to cross the same place, then you can start getting ready because the Geulah is about to come.
The world is moving towards an unpredictable era ever since the Russia-Ukraine war started. New scenarios are coming up and some of them hint at new wars. In fact, we are now looking at the possibility of a Russia-Turkey naval war. So, why are the navies of Russia and Turkey likely to clash? Let's find out.
But folks, it gives you an idea. Do you see which way the winds are blowing? We've been documenting this for months now, whether it's over Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, Ukraine, Syria, of course. Russia and Israel have been on a diplomatic collision course, and the relationship has been unraveling. For now, this is a diplomatic collision course. I believe a day is coming where Russia, and the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, lays out this war of Gog and Magog scenario. It's more than a scenario. It is coming. And I believe Russia will lead that, as Ezekiel calls it, latter days, confederation of nations that come against Israel. In the meantime, know this, that this latter days confederation that comes against Israel meets its demise on the mountains of Israel. They don't get very far as the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, intervenes in the affairs of men for the whole world to see in a way he really hasn't done in 2,000 years. Today on the newscast, as the current Israeli government collapses in real time, Could Israel be staring at new elections once again? And could Bibi be waiting in the wings? Plus, with Russia set to target Israel at the UN, are these two nations on a collision course? Get all the breaking details next.
Putin demands Russia gain control of Jerusalem Church as promised is a key to start war connecting Russia to Ukraine through eastern Ukraine corridor. Will create a naval war with Turkey.
Defeating Turkey gaining access through Black Sea Strait.
Down to Jerusalem.
The serene atmosphere in the Russian Orthodox Alexander Nevsky Church in Jerusalem's Old City belies the fact that the religious site has become a flashpoint in the growing diplomatic disputes between Moscow and Jerusalem. Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
Israel has become neutral in the beginning of Ukraine war. You hear that? Now Nathan, a 15-year-old Jewish boy, died for 15 minutes, went to heaven, and was shown the destiny of Israel. Listen to his exact words.
7 November 2015, Rabbi Rami Levy with 15-year-old Nathan on his 15 minutes clinical death experience, testify about the end of days and Israel destiny he saw in heaven. Nathan said, Gog is. The Bible describes Gog's location of the lands of Gog and Magog in the northeast of Asia, especially Russia and the northeast corner of the world.
Happy Holy Day, holy days, and seasons for rejoicing. When Rabbi Yehuda asked me, like every Feast of Tabernacles and Passover, to come here and give a lesson, I had prepared something about the Messiah. And I didn't know that, blessed be his name, that on the path one wants to follow, the Holy Blessed One would send me such help from heaven. The posters were printed and hung. Here, the young man sitting on my right, his name is Nathan. He is not from Jerusalem. I will begin with an introduction and say he went through a very difficult experience, and in a moment he will tell you what he saw and what messages he received. What is difficult for people to understand, what's hard to understand here, is that he is only 15 years old. And when the soul leaves the body, it can receive huge amounts of information in just minutes. That means that what takes years for a person here in this world to learn, there in that world, one can know and understand all within a matter of minutes, everything. So he has a lot to tell. It's hard for him to tell it. He also doesn't have the exact words to describe what he experienced, because they aren't things of this world at all. Since yesterday, I have been sitting with him and encouraging him and gleaning information from him. And little by little, you will see that he knows a lot of things. So I will begin by saying this. He is not from Jerusalem. On Monday, the 15th of Tishri, this week, on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, he went with his mother to visit his uncle in Modin. In the afternoon, he began to shiver. He felt cold, his legs and his arms. He thought he needed to rest. He went to lie down and rest. And then what happened after that, we will let him tell you what happened, because it was him. He felt like he left his body through his nose and he floated above himself. And at first, he didn't understand who he was, where his self was, the self that is lying right here on the bed, or the self that is floating here above. Shall we begin, Nathan?
Yes. So what happened is like this. First of all, I was very sick that day, and the day before that I was also dizzy. I had fainted the day before. Now, on Monday afternoon, I also didn't feel well, and my whole body was shaking. I went to rest, I got in bed, I covered myself with a blanket because I was really cold. I don't know how to explain it. My whole body was shivering and I was in a lot of pain. I felt like suddenly I left my body, and then I saw myself in the bed. I was about 6 feet above my bed. I didn't understand if that was me there. Then who am I here? Or who is the one above my bed? And I wasn't able to understand it. Then I started to float, like I am going up in the air without an elevator. And I rose up and left the room. And
there is this and that. You are just coming now and strengthening for us what we read in the books and learned. Now, what is more interesting for us? I want to ask you questions about the Messiah.
Okay, great.
Could you know who the Messiah was?
I couldn't know. I could only know what his traits were, what he needs to be in order to be the Messiah.
And can you tell us if he is here or there?
He's here. He must be here. It can't be that the Messiah is dead. That can't be.
That can't be.
It has to be somebody who is here, who people know. But when he becomes the Messiah, everybody will be surprised.
That means that when the Messiah, with God's help, is revealed, it will be a surprise?
A huge surprise.
And people will say, ah, that's the Messiah.
It will be like, wow, that's the Messiah. Like that.
Good. Now I want to go back to something else. You say you could know what was going to happen in the world. When you were there, what did you understand was going to happen?
According to what I knew there, I'm sure I know it. When I was up there, I knew what was going to happen in the world. And according to what I knew, what I told you about the Messiah and everything, I also knew that the redemption and the revelation of the Messiah is going to happen very soon. It's like it's going to happen in the very near future. It's imminent. It's like imminent. The redemption is really coming.
Now tell me, when you were there was no concept of time. How can you estimate there the concept of time? What is imminent? Is it 20 years, 2 years, a month?
Imminent is right away, like in the coming months.
In the coming months, okay. In the coming months, okay. Now, do you also know what will happen?
Yes, I know what is going to happen, yes.
And you know it from there?
Yes, only from there. Everything I know is only from there.
And where are we holding right now?
Where are we holding now? In a period, not a good one at all. I can tell you that the redemption is very close to here.
And what will happen during that redemption?
Very bad things are going to happen, but it depends on who, as far as I knew. It is certain it will occur in the coming months. There is that possibility. If we all repent, then it won't happen.
The bad things in the redemption won't happen.
The bad things.
But the redemption will arrive.
The redemption will arrive. Yes, but if they sin, the redemption will be worse.
If they sin, it will come to pass much more harshly.
Much more difficult.
And if everybody repents, it will come to pass in an easy way.
It's going to happen no matter what.
Now, according to what you know there, what you saw there, how is it going to happen?
Based on what I knew, right now our situation is not good at all. I mean, not good.
What's going to happen?
It's going to be a very big war, and everybody, the whole world will be in that war, based on what I learned. The whole world will be in that war. Everybody, all the Gentiles, all the Arabs, everybody will be against Israel and will fight in that war.
How will it begin?
It will be started by somebody named Gog. As far as I knew up there, only up there.
He is called Gog?
Yes.
And do you know who this Gog is?
I am sure I know who it is.
Who is it?
Obama, President Obama.
He will start Gog and Magog?
He will be the one who starts that war. He will bring his whole army. He will start the war here.
And he'll fight against us?
He'll fight against us. At first, everyone will just want Israel. Jerusalem, Israel. Everyone will want it.
Jerusalem?
Jerusalem, yes. Everyone will want it. The whole world. They won't care about us. They will just want Jerusalem. Everyone will fight against each other because they want it. Not long at all. All of the bad things will take 2 weeks.
All of the bad things will take 2 weeks. What will happen during those 2 weeks? What are the bad things?
In those 2 weeks, what is the bad thing? More than a few million people will die. They will die like the only thing that saves them is if they repent. If a person learns the Torah and does good, that's what will save him.
It says in the Gemara, when they asked Rabbi Hagedal, what can a person do to save himself from the birth pangs of Messiah? Rabbi Hagedal answered, he should occupy himself with the Torah and acts of kindness. That's what will save him. Now tell me, what is this? What kind of war is this? A spiritual war?
No.
A war of soldiers against soldiers? What is it?
Partly. At first it will be a war between soldiers. The whole world will just come, just at first. All the Gentiles will battle each other and will want Israel. In the end, what will happen is this. Everyone will unite in and fight against us, fight against Israel, and many Israelites will die. Millions will die. A ton of people will die.
Those who didn't keep the Torah and good deeds?
They will die.
And those who did keep the Torah and good deeds?
Those who kept the Torah and do good deeds, it depends if they learned the Torah and did good deeds. There are those who observe but don't really care about it. They are loose about it. But if someone is really strict and studies the Torah and does good deeds, he will be saved.
How will he be saved?
He will be saved. What will happen is like this. Based on what I saw up there.
What do you mean what you saw? Did you see it like a movie of the future?
Yeah, like a movie of the future. I see it in a movie of the future. You see it in a few seconds, but it's lots and lots of time. Like the movie of my life, I saw it first. They showed me my life in a split second. Like in a fraction of a second, they showed it to me. And I saw every single second of my life. When I was a baby, when I was a little boy, I saw it all.
Now let's move forward. You saw a movie.
I saw a movie.
Let's call it a movie of the future, of what's going to be.
Yes. I saw everyone attacking Israel and came against us and fought against us. The IDF will hold them off for 2 days. Then everyone will just kill us and we won't have anyone to help but God. And then, suddenly...
Wait. This war, the IDF will hold for only 2 days?
2 days.
And after 2 days?
We'll be finished by then.
No IDF?
No IDF.
So everything is open?
Everything is open.
So when you say that Gog is Obama, Obama is the United States, you say that he will lead the...
He will lead the whole war.
And who will join him?
Who will join him? Iran will join him. The UN. The whole UN.
Russia?
Yes, Russia, South Korea, the whole UN. Really, everyone. All 70 nations will rise against us. 70.
Where is ISIS in all this?
ISIS, this is what I saw. They will kidnap people. They will just kidnap people.
They will kidnap our people?
Yes, like they did to Gilad Shalit. They will also do that. They will kidnap people and torture them and things like that. For now, what I also saw is that the Mount of Olives next to Jerusalem, for those who are saved, that mountain will split in two. And when the mountain splits, that very second, the Messiah will be revealed to everyone. Everyone will just see that it's the Messiah. We will know it's the Messiah. Here he is, revealed to everyone. He will stand at the entrance of the Mount of Olives, and he will say who can enter and who cannot enter. Anyone who is not saved will stay outside and die, and anyone who is worthy will be saved. You have to know what he will be saved from. So the mountain just opens, and also...
Now it opens.
It splits in two.
Something like...
No.
An earthquake?
No.
A nuclear bomb? What?
No, they will rise up. You know how on the Mount of Olives there are graves, right? So 2 of the dead people will walk out. 2 dead people will come back to life. 1 from here and 1 from there. It will split in 2. That's how it will happen. And what I saw is that the Messiah is someone who can't sin. Someone with no sin. Someone who never sinned.
He is someone who repented?
Yes, he never sinned. He had never committed any sins. He is without sin. He didn't commit even 1 sin. It can't be that the Messiah is someone who sinned. It can be someone who we know very well. Lots and lots of people know him based on what I knew. But everyone will be very, very surprised that he, of all people, is the Messiah. Also, now, this Messiah, the Messiah, he will fight against Obama. And not only that, he will kill him and bury him in Israel. And I saw that. Yes, he will be buried in Israel. And I saw that when the Mount of Olives split in 2, then Messiah will stand at the opening, but he won't care who is religious, who has a beard, who a person is. He sees a person's holiness. He will smell each person. He will smell if someone is holy, if he is pure, if he did good deeds, if he is kind, to see if he has true fear of heaven and not just afraid of punishment and things like that. He won't say, "Here you are, you have a hat, you can go in." It's not like that. He will have power to feel what is truly inside every person.
Nathan, I ask you once again, you know all this from up there?
I know all of it from there.
A week ago you didn't know any of this.
I didn't know these things. I didn't know. I had no idea. Nothing.
No, he didn't. He is not a Jewish school student. Wait one second. I just want to say something here. Look at what he is saying, and look, he says that Gog is Obama, and that Gog, Obama, will fall here in Israel. And God will give Obama a grave here in Israel.
Here in Israel.
So Ezekiel the prophet says, on that day I will give Gog a burial place in Israel.
That's exactly what they said to me. Exactly.
Ezekiel.
Exactly the same thing.
And you say that the Mount of Olives will split.
The Mount of Olives will split in two.
So Zechariah the prophet says, then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, and his feet shall stand in that day on the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof.
Is that really what is written?
Yes, Zechariah the prophet.
That's exactly what I saw.
Zechariah the prophet, he was a long time ago.
That is exactly what will happen if things stay as they are. If the world keeps on like this, that is what will happen, for sure.
Now, a woman asked a good question, and I also want to ask, how will we know when it starts?
It will start with a boom. First of all, it has already started.
It has started?
As far as I could see, it has started. It started on September 11th, 2015. It has already started.
On the 27th of Elul last year in 5775.
This year, yes. Last Hebrew year.
We are in 5776, so it started last year, 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Gog and Magog started.
Yes, that war has already started.
So why don't we sense anything?
Because God won't bring it at first. What will happen one certain day, it will just erupt. Something will set off and it will just erupt. All of the news channels, everything. Everyone will say World War III has started. Everyone will just know. That's it. There's no time. And everyone will know that God has caused this event.
You mean that there will be a security incident?
Yes.
And that causes everything to go out of control?
Yes.
Everyone will start fighting against each other?
Yes, exactly.
So at first they will fight against each other?
Yes.
And us?
We will be outside of it, but then everyone will come against us. They will unite and come against us.
Okay, fine. We'll see, okay?
It's like he doesn't know this is the Messiah.
Speak into the microphone. Speak into the microphone.
Yes, he's an important person, a great person. What's that? I have no idea. I don't know. I only know that he has no sins. He doesn't commit any sins at all. He's a great man, and when he becomes the Messiah, everyone will be very, very surprised that it's him. He was secular.
Messiah, he says it's someone who must have repented. He is a person who is sinless, and everyone knows him.
Yes.
And it will be a surprise.
It will be a surprise that it's him.
Wait, slowly. We want to continue a little more with what you are saying, what you saw in the future. So, gentlemen, we have started to understand a few things. First of all, it all started on September 11th. The War of Gog and Magog started.
World War III.
It seems to be small until some event causes an all-out war to start. That will be the final sign. At first, we will not be involved in that war, but after that, everyone will unite against us.
Yes.
And they will fight us because they want Jerusalem.
Yes.
And now you say you think you just said that, but not in chronological order. I'm trying to make some order here. They'll fight against us, and the army will hold out for 2 days?
It will hold out for 2 days, that's all.
And after that, no army?
No army, finished.
And then they come in?
They come in.
They kidnap people?
They kidnap people, they kill them.
They kill people?
Rockets, missiles, you name it.
Wait. Now we get to the part about the rockets and missiles.
Yes.
I heard about that from a lot of sources, and there is also a prophecy that talks about a nuclear bomb.
A nuclear bomb, but the bomb will be small, not large, and God will just stop it in the sky, and it won't fall.
You mean they will fire a nuclear bomb at us, and God will freeze it in the sky?
He will freeze it in the sky, and after a few weeks it will fall, but it will only fall on 2 cities, Tel Aviv and Haifa.
The nuclear bomb will only fall on those 2 cities?
Yes, those 2 cities.
Okay, and now they come in and conquer?
They totally conquer, really conquer everything.
And they get as far as?
They actually get all the way to Jerusalem.
To Jerusalem?
But Jerusalem will be a refuge, like whoever wants to be saved, only in Jerusalem. But the war will also be there. So whoever is worthy will be protected, and whoever doesn't will not. Whoever observes the Torah and does good deeds and such, he will be saved.
So the righteous ones who are outside of Jerusalem, will they come here and be saved?
They will come here and be saved.
And the wicked, evil people in Jerusalem will not be saved, that means it isn't the place, but it's the person.
It's the person.
It's his actions.
Yes.
And then the Mount of Olives splits.
It splits in two.
And the Messiah stands there.
The Messiah stands at the opening, yes.
And he doesn't judge people based on their clothing.
He does not judge clothing. He judges the inside of a person. He knows what is inside every single person, their inner selves, and who they truly are.
There is a verse that says he will judge with smell. He smells the fear of God and knows who you are. So he comes in, and when anyone else comes in, what is there? A security gate?
Something like that. A security gate. Exactly. After that, what happens is, I didn't tell you what I saw that will happen. After the Mount of Olives splits in two, whoever is worthy will go in. But whoever does not, God will come. He himself will come. He will be in a robe. He will be in a robe, just a huge robe, and on the robe will be bloodstains. The bloodstains are from all the Jews who died in all the generations of Israel, who the Gentiles killed.
Only because they were Jews?
Only because they were Jews, yes. God will come and take revenge on all the Gentiles. I know that there is also a verse about that. He will read that verse too, which says, O God of vengeance, render to the haughty their recompense. So I knew that this verse, that's about this. You should know that I knew all of this up there.
Good. Now, I'll just ask one question about the Gentiles. God will have vengeance on the Gentiles. Do you know how?
What will happen is it will happen in only a few minutes. He will just destroy everything. I just saw it from above. Just all the buildings, everything will just fall. Every step, every wall, everything will just fall. Collapse. Suddenly everything will just collapse. It could be that. It could be that if people wake up, they will repent. There is a choice. But right now, what I saw happen is what is. Right now, we have the worst case.
Nathan, I want to read to you and to the congregation a prophecy from Ezekiel 38. You say mountains fall, and you also mention the word step.
Yes, steps. All the steps, buildings, everything, but only in specific places. But if there are places where there are righteous people, that thing won't happen. The steps and walls won't fall.
Will it only be in Israel or everywhere in the world?
Everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world. So the prophet says, all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men who are upon the surface of the earth shall quake, and all the mountains shall be thrown down, and the cliffs, the word is also read steps, shall fall to the ground.
Really? Is that what is written?
Yes. Does it fit? Does it fit?
Yes.
אפשר לשאול שאלה? דוגמה, בראש שנה דוגמה הולכים לאומה, לא יודע רבינה, כאילו אומרים שהוא מציל את הנשמות וכל זה, כאילו, יש דבר כזה, כאילו שאתה אומר שהמשיח כאילו יסנן אנשים, כאילו הצדיק הזה כאילו מציל את, כאילו איך זה הולך?
He saves people, like if he's the Messiah, he isn't the Messiah for nothing.
אומרים שמי שהולך לזה, הצדיק מציל אותו רבי נחמן, דוגמה, באומה.
I don't know what you...
לא, אני שואל פשוט מישהו אמר לי לשאול, אבל אני אומר... מי שבא לאומן, כאילו, מצילים אותו מן החטא וכל...
Whoever goes to Uman is saved?
צדיקים מגנים על האנשים, כאילו, כשהמשיח יבוא.
It depends which people.
מי שתפס את העניין ברצינות, אתה אומר.
Yes.
That is to say, the general rule is like this. It doesn't matter where you live or where you go. The only thing it depends upon is what you do.
Yes, and after that war, many people will die. I don't know exactly. To tell you the exact number, do you know?
Nobody knows.
A lot will die, millions of Jews. In the same amount, exactly the number of Gentiles will die. The exact number of Gentiles will die as the number of Jews. And who won't die from among the Gentiles, who will be worthy to remain? Those who kept the 7 laws of Noah, and the Jews who observe the Torah in good deeds and all. And that will only be the beginning. What will happen is just like...
So wait, Nathan, slowly. We have Gog and Magog, which has already begun.
Yes, it's already begun.
We have the downfall. They conquer us and get Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives splits.
Yes.
Whoever enters the Mount of Olives, that essentially protects him.
Yes.
It protects him, and then God appears, and he is the one who fights the Gentiles.
Yes.
You say that he comes wearing a white robe with bloodstains, and those bloodstains are in fact the bloodstains of all the Jews who were killed only because they were Jews over all the generations.
Yes.
The destruction of the first temple, the destruction of the second temple, the Inquisition, there is no lack.
No lack.
And now God avenges them and just wipes them out.
He wipes them out.
And he makes a grave for Obama there. there?
In Israel.
In Israel.
You're in Israel, yes.
Okay, now what's the next phase?
The next phase, the redemption will begin, but it will only be in the beginning. It will take time until everything begins. First of all, there will be lots and lots of bodies, and it will take time, a long time until they remove all the bodies. That light that I told you was up there, it will descend. It will be brought down, and that will be our light, like we can see light now. What? It depends who. Yes, most of the Jews will die. What?
Again, it doesn't matter where you are. It matters what you do.
It doesn't matter where you are. It matters what you do. What? The Gentiles will come here. Whoever is here is here. Whoever isn't, isn't. Everyone is on their own if they stay outside of Israel. What? If they obeyed the Torah and good deeds, then yes. And if not, then no. If they are wicked, then no.
Gentlemen, this is a mistake. It's not where a person lives. It's like if someone comes here to Jerusalem from another country and eats in a steakhouse, and I tell him, listen, that steak isn't kosher. He asks me, then why is it served here in Jerusalem? It's not where you are. It's not that you live in Jerusalem, it's kosher, and if you live in Jerusalem, you are righteous. You could also be righteous in other countries. God doesn't check here. He doesn't do geography tests, but God checks what you do here. He takes the account of each person and every person and checks it. Whoever has earned merit will be saved. Whoever is guilty will not. So that means nothing here will help. They take an x-ray of you and they look at it, who you are. If you are okay with the Torah and good deeds, you remain. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you aren't okay, a wicked person can be condemned from Kotel and a righteous person can be saved in New York. God, maybe Nathan doesn't remember this, but we know it, that God will gather everyone and bring him here, and whoever is worthy, he will remain alive and will eventually come here, and whoever is not will be lost. The Ramak also wrote about this, that whoever is stiff-necked, he will be lost. So don't rely on a place or not on jewelry or anything. You simply need to consider one thing. Do you study the Torah, obey the commandments, and do good or not? That's it. That's the criteria. Do you understand? Wait, move on. Slowly. 1 second.
One second.
Slow down. We want to make order here. Because otherwise everything will get out of control. So God comes here and fights and eliminates all the Gentiles. And after, it will take time. Why? In order to clean up everything. So I want to show you another verse about after God fights the battle of Gog and Magog. And it shall come to pass on that day that I will give Gog a place there as a grave in Israel. And there they shall bury Gog and all his hordes, and they shall call it the valley of Haman Gog. In 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them in order to purify the land. It will take time to purify the land because afterwards we will be getting into the laws of impurity and purity, the impurity of the dead, something we are not accustomed to dealing with today. With God's help, it will be. And then we will need to purify the entire country. Yes, to purify the whole country of the bodies. Because also, based on the sages, the body of a non-Jew is also impure according to the sages. Here we will, with God's help, be receiving the Holy Temple, the Messiah, and the complete redemption. And therefore, it will take time to purify it. Because the numbers of soldiers who will come here, this isn't a terror cell. It's not clashes with terrorists. Based on what I understand and based on what you are telling us, this is something very huge. You need to understand, just to gather up all of North Korea and the United States and Russia, that's enough. And of course, I am not even mentioning Iran and all the Arab countries that will get involved. Do you understand what numbers are going to be here? It's an amount that the great and undefeatable IDF within 2 days will be defeated. That's it. No more army. 2 days, that's it. There will be no army, no IDF, no nothing. There won't be anything. And they will just take a morning run and it'll be over. For what we are a tiny speck on the map. They are already surrounding us. God has already brought them here. They are already in Syria. The Americans are in Syria. The Russians are in Syria. Everybody is there. And when it turns against us, heaven forbid, they will have no problem forming a coalition against us. And that's it. So what can we do? Do you remember when 150 Syrian citizens just crossed the border from the Syrian border and entered the country and nobody noticed them? And before they noticed and chased them and deported them, one of them had already reached Tel Aviv without a weapon. 150 civilians crossed the border and nobody noticed. Imagine if it was 1 million, 2 million soldiers.
More
than that. They will cover the entire country. They'll come down here around Jerusalem, just the soldiers alone with their personal weapons, their personal equipment. All around will be a forest of soldiers, all around here. Only one thing will save us: the Torah and deeds of kindness. What will save us? The prophet says here that the Mount of Olives will split and we will run to it. We will run. We will suddenly know how to run very well. Even those who have trouble running and they have no strength and they are tired, suddenly they will run very well to the Mount of Olives. And then the Mount of Olives will split and the Messiah will usher in whoever is worthy. But who is worthy of protection and who will receive that protection? Only someone who observed the Torah and good deeds and kindness.
will happen for sure.
Now, a woman asked a good question, and I also want to ask, how will we know when it starts?
It will start with a boom. First of all, it has already started.
It has started?
As far as I could see, it has started. It started on September 11th, 2015. It has already started.
On the 27th of Elul last year in 5/7.
This video made in 2016, 5776 in Jews' calendar. We are now in 5782. If God is true to his words, we expect this to happen this year 2022.
7-5.
This year, yes. Last Hebrew year.
We are in 5776, so it started last year, 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Gog and Magog started.
Yes, that war has already started.
So why don't we sense anything?
Because God won't bring it at first. What will happen one certain day, it will just erupt. Something will set off, and it will just erupt. All of the news channels, everything. Everyone will say, World War III has started. Everyone will just know. That's it. There's no time. And everyone will know that God has caused this event.
You mean that there will be a security incident?
Yes.
And that causes everything to go out of control?
Yes.
Everyone will start fighting against each other?
Yes.
He said we will be outside of it. Right when the war started, Naftali Bernard quickly moved to Russia, explaining Israel's standpoint as Israel remains neutral, putting Israel outside this war.
I'm not sure at this very point as we speak if it is a minor diplomatic crisis meant to create a pressure, a leverage point against Jerusalem, or a game changer in the relationship between Moscow and Israel.
Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
Now listen again.
Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
Started on September 11th. The War of Gog and Magog started.
World War III.
Nathan said, September 11th, 2014, World War III started. That was the time when Russia started invading Ukraine. Notice he said first we will be outside of it.
It seems to be small until some event causes an all-out war to start. That will be the final sign. At first, we will not be involved in that war, but after that, everyone will unite against us.
Yes.
And they will fight us.
Israel has tried to remain neutral from the beginning of the Ukraine war.
Rabbi Alon Anawa in 2016 give a clear picture of how this war will start. Third World War, and it will cause the coming of the Messiah. Listen as he speaks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alon Anawa, and today we're going to talk about the most important topic that we need to know and concentrate about is the fact that Mashiach is coming any second. In Parashat Vara in the Zohar, that's where it comes with a lot of prophecies at the time, what's called Acharit HaYamim. It's talking about how Mamash at the time of Acharit HaYamim, the sons of Ishmael, the Arabs, are going to make havoc all over the world. And they're going to cause not only problems and wars, they're going to cause the entire world to hate us. He's taking a few sources from the Zohar, but in this book, he's talking about one prophecy, and he's talking about the Holocaust, World War II. And he says that this war is going to be 5 years, and the result of the war is going to be destruction and unbelievable pain and unbelievable what's going to happen in this war. But 10 sabbatical years after this war, the nations of the Jews are going to have to go through 10 sabbatical years, and after these 10 sabbatical years, it's going to be the time for the redemption to start. And sure enough, the war was 5 years, and the destruction was not normal. And we counted from that war 10 sabbatical years, and now, half a year ago, we finished the 10th one. Half a year ago in Tishrei, we finished Shnat Shemitah, the sabbatical year, the 10th one. There's a prophecy from the Arizal that he says the same thing. En ben David ba ela b'motzei Shavit. That at the time of the 10th, the end of the 10th sabbatical year, that's when the time when Mashiach is going to come. Now there's another prophecy in the Zohar, in the book of Vayera, page 32, that it's talking about that there's going to be 3 wars. 3 major wars, and the Zohar is calling those wars Gog and Magog. There's another place that it's talking about that the first 2 of these wars, they're not going to be close to Yerushalayim, they're going to be far away from Yerushalayim. This is in the book of Yechezkel. But the 3rd war is going to be very close to Yerushalayim. Amazingly, comes the Chafetz Chaim and he says, when World War I started, the Chafetz Chaim then said, this is the first Gog and Magog. And he says, in 25 years, the second Gog and Magog is going to start, and it's going to make the first Gog and Magog look like a joke. And sure enough, exactly 25 years later, started World War II, that made it the first war, Bemet, look like a joke. And then he says that 72 years later, we'll start the 3rd Gog and Magog, which is going to make the second one and the 3rd one look even more of a joke. And sure enough, if you take the 72 years, we have 2 options. The first option is if you calculate it from 1939, which is the beginning, then you come to 2011, sorry. But if you go from the end, from 1945, and you add 72 years, it's 2017. So we have a buffer from the prophecy from the Zohar, from the 3rd Gog and Magog, that it's either going to be from 2011 or 2017. The thing is that nobody really knows. That's when the Arizal came and says, no. En ben David ba ela b'motzei Shavit, which means it can only happen now, meaning that we're in this short buffer. Now, the thing is that many people talking about this war, this Gog and Magog, and we're going to talk a little bit about this Gog and Magog because this is the most important thing to understand and to know. Now, there's another amazing prophecy by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's not in the Zohar, it's in a Midrash. The Midrash is called Otzar Midrashim. It's called Midrash Rashbi. It's page 556. There's a prophecy from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that he says that when the ruler of Damascus is going to fall, that's when Ben David, the son of David, who's the king Mashiach, then he's going to rise. Amazingly, if you're looking at the world affair, what's going on right now, the war is concentrated in Syria. And one of the major cities of Syria is called Damascus. In this prophecy, he's saying when the ruler of Damascus is going to fall, that's going to be the rising of the Goel Israel, the Redeemer of the Jews. Now, who's the ruler of Damascus? In this prophecy, he has a name. He gives him a name. And he calls him Niron Mizrahi. Now, Niron Mizrahi, what's Niron Mizrahi? We know that the ruler of Syria is not Niron Mizrahi. But amazingly, if you take the word, the name Niron Mizrahi, the gematria, the numerical value of the word Niron Mizrahi is the exact gematria of Bashar Assad, the ruler of Syria, the ruler of Damascus. And in this prophecy, he's talking how it's a kingdom in the east of Israel. And that's the kingdom where all the wars are going to be concentrated on. And when the ruler falls, that's going to be the rising of Melech HaMashiach.
Rabbi mentioned Syria. Yes, in 2014 Russia invaded Syria and destroyed part of Syria. Damascus was destroyed.
All the wars are going to be concentrated on. And when the ruler falls, that's going to be the rising of Melech HaMashiach. So we see that the wars are now concentrated on Syria. This is where the wars are concentrated on. Because before it were concentrated in Iraq, then it was concentrated in Paras. But we see that the wars right now, the thing is that when it's talking about Gog and Magog, it's talking about that the Gog and Magog is going to be a war between the nations. Not necessarily against the Jews. Rather, the Gog and Magog that it's talking about, it's a war between the nations, which that is, obviously, you see that it's happening. When it's talking about, in the book of Yechezkel, about how 70 nations are going to come against Yerushalayim, just open the news, you can see that it's already happening a few years ago, that all the nations are against Yerushalayim, against Israel. You know, in Israel, they want to build a veranda in Yerushalayim. The whole nations are going crazy. So we see already that all the nations are against Israel. They all go against Israel. Doesn't matter what we're going to do in Israel. You just move there. The entire world is going against Eretz Israel. Now, when it's talking about this war, it's talking about 3 wars. When the Chafetz Chaim was talking about the Gog and Magog, now everything that happens in this world is a manifestation of the world above. Which means what happens in the spiritual worlds has to manifest into this world. That's how it works. When the Chafetz Chaim was talking about the Gog and Magog, now everything that happens in this world is a manifestation of the world above. Which means what happens in the spiritual worlds has to manifest into this world. That's how it works. So when the Zohar is prophesying about these 3 wars, it's the way you're going to look at it. Even though if you're calculating from what I said before, the time for Mincha, Tafshin Ayin, 6 years ago, yeah, it's already started. There's a period of what's called Chevlei Mashiach. According to all the sources, we're already past the Chevlei Mashiach. Now we're in the period of Leidat Mashiach, the birth of Mashiach. This is all periods. It's not like how we think that one day, that's it, it comes and it's over. No, we already started, and we know, the Gemara teaches us that the Geula can come in 2 times. The first time that it can come, Beita, in its time. There's a date decided, and this is the day it's going to come. And then there's another option, that it's going to come, what's called Ve'achishena. I'll bring it faster. Which means that if we, as the Jews, get our act together, we can bring the Geula faster. These are the 2 options what it can come. There's also 2 options that the Geula is going to come, what's called Bechesed Ve'Barachamim. It's going to come in a very merciful way. And Chas V'Shalom, it can also come, I don't want to even say how it's going to come. In the book of Daniel, it says that if the generation has the merits, im zachu, then Mashiach is going to come, what's called on Ananei Shmaya, on clouds of glory. We're going to be taken on clouds, first class, from here to Eretz Israel.
What?
Again, it doesn't matter where you are. It matters what you do.
It doesn't matter where you are. It matters what you do. What? The Gentiles will come here. Whoever is here, whoever isn't, isn't. Everyone is on their own, if they stay outside of Israel. What? If they obeyed the Torah and good deeds, then yes, and if not, then no. If they are wicked, then no.
Gentlemen, this is a mistake. It's not where a person lives. It's like if someone comes here to Jerusalem from another country and eats in a steakhouse, and I tell him, listen, that steak isn't kosher. He asks me, then why is it served here in Jerusalem? It's not where you are. It's not that you live in Jerusalem, it's kosher, and if you live in Jerusalem, you are righteous. You could also be righteous in other countries. God doesn't check here. He doesn't do geography tests, but God checks what you do here. He takes the account of each person and every person and checks it. Whoever has earned merit will be saved. Whoever is guilty will not. So that means nothing here will help. They take an x-ray of you and they look at it who you are. If you are okay with the Torah and good deeds, you remain.
Now, first of all, we know that the world was created for 7,000 years. It says in the book of Yeshaya, chapter 2, verse 11, that the world was created for 7,000 years. Now, first of all, it says in the pasuk, Shit alfei shnei have alma v'chad charuv. 6,000 years the world is going to be in one state, and then 1,000 years is going to be in a state of destruction. This is what it means. This is going to compare to the 6 days of creation. The first 6,000 years go to the 6 days of creation, and the last millennium, the last 1,000 year, corresponds to the day of Shabbat. So we know that the world is created for 7,000 years, and we're right now in the year 5,776.
That was the year 2016.
Now you have to understand that the redemption, the Geulah, is not a 1 second thing. It's a very long process. The Zohar says that it's a 72-year process. The Zohar says in Parashat Vayera that the process is going to be 72 years. 72 years corresponding to the name of Hashem, of the name what's called Ayin Bet. Hashem has 4 names that if you take the name Yud Kei Vav Kei and you break it to the Gematria, but with what's called Milui Otiyot, so there are 4 types of name. One of the names is the name called Ayin Bet, 72. This goes 70 years of what's called Chevlei Mashiach, and then 2 years of the time of Biat Mashiach. The Zohar says that it's going to take 72 years. Take 1,000 years, we're constantly counting everything with 1,000 years. If you calculate it by the years, but if you go by the calculation of the Sfirot, the Netzach and the Hod, it's 700. So if you count 700 from the 1,000 years, we come to the year Tafshin. Tafshin is 1939. 1939 was when the Holocaust started. And the Zohar says that in Tafshin, we'll start Chavlei Mashiach. The suffering will start. After the 72 years, we're ready to start the coming of Mashiach. It's a process. It says that for 40 years, we're going to have possession of Yerushalayim. After the 40 years that we have possession of Yerushalayim, there's going to be 5 years of a period of Mashiach ben Yosef, and then Mashiach ben Yosef is going to die, and then the birth of Mashiach ben David is going to start. Now, in history, when did we start having possession of Yerushalayim? After the 6-Day War in 1967. For 2,000 years, we didn't know, nobody had possession, not on Israel or Jerusalem. In 1967, we started having possession of Yerushalayim. So take 40 years that he's talking about, from 1967, that's 2007. Add the 5 years that he's talking about, the period of Mashiach ben Yosef, that's 2012. So according to his prophecy, at 2012, it's time for the birth of Mashiach ben David.
On April the 30th, 2007, Israel Today ran this amazing headline story. Rabbi reveals the name of the Messiah. Rabbi Itzhak Kaduri was famously known for his memorization of the Bible, the Talmud, and other Jewish writings. He was a teacher and a revered master at Nahalat Yitzhak Yeshiva Seminary. He knew Jewish sages and celebrities of the last century and rabbis who lived in the Holy Land who kept the faith alive before the state of Israel was even born. Kaduri was not only highly esteemed because of his age of 108, but he was charismatic and wise. Chief rabbis looked up to him as a righteous man. Thousands visited him to ask for counsel or healing. His followers speak of many miracles, and his students say that he was a prophet of many disasters. A few months before Kaduri died at the age of 108, he surprised his followers when he told them that he had personally met the Messiah. The Messiah had appeared to him. He wrote the name of the Messiah in a note, he said. His official website had mentioned the Messiah note. David Kaduri, the rabbi's 80-year-old son, confirmed that in his last year, his father had talked and dreamed almost exclusively about the Messiah and his coming. My father has met the Messiah in a vision, he said, and he told us that he was coming very soon. Kaduri gave a message in his synagogue on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, teaching how to recognize the Messiah. He also mentioned that the Messiah would appear to Israel after Ariel Sharon passed. When Kaduri died, January the 28th, 2006, more than 200,000 people joined the funeral procession on the streets of Jerusalem to pay their respects as he was taken to his final resting place. Shortly before he died, this teacher of Israel wrote the name of the Messiah on a small note which he requested would remain sealed for 1 year. 1 year later, the note was opened in 2007. When the note was opened, it read as follows: "Concerning the letter abbreviation of the Messiah's name, he will lift the people and prove that his word and law are valid." The Hebrew sentence with the hidden name of the Messiah reads like this:
Urim, Ha'em, Veo Ki Ak, Shedavaro, Vedorado, Omdim. The acronym of the sentence has Yud, Hey, Vav, Shin, Vav, Ein, and it spells the name of Yahushua or Yeshua.
The acronym of that sentence, that is, the letter abbreviation that Kaduri spoke of, or the first initials of each word, spell the Hebrew name of Jesus, or Yehoshua, or Yeshua, the Hebrew root word of salvation. When the name of Yehoshua appeared in Kaduri's message, ultra-Orthodox Jews from his seminary in Jerusalem argued that their master must not have left the exact solution for decoding the Messiah's name. The revelation received scant coverage in the Israeli media. Only the Hebrew websites News First Class and Kaduri.net mentioned the Messiah's note, both of them insisting that it was authentic. Israel Today spoke to two of Kaduri's followers in Jerusalem who admitted that the note was authentic, but very confusing for his followers as well. "We have no idea how the rabbi got to this name of the Messiah," one of them said. I know this: the answer of the identity of the Messiah as Jesus, given to Kaduri supposedly, is absolute truth. As such, I believe it had to have been revealed from Jesus himself appearing to Kaduri, much the same as Jesus appeared to the Jewish Pharisee Paul on the road to Damascus 2,000 years ago. It is amazing that the leading Jewish teacher of Israel until 2006 would, on his deathbed, proclaim in a message that Jesus Christ is the Messiah and is soon to return. That is astounding and almost unthinkable. It is also amazing that he was specifically told that Jesus would return shortly after Ariel Sharon's death. As of the making of this film, Ariel Sharon is still alive, in a coma. Could it be that this modern-day Apostle Paul received from the Lord Jesus that his return is indeed very, very soon?
Death and funeral of Ariel Sharon. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon died on January 11, 2014. As Rabbi Kaduri described, Sharon suffered hemorrhagic stroke on January 4, 2006, and remained in a long-term care facility in a vegetative state from late 2006 until his death. Sharon died at 2 p.m. on January 11, 2014. A state funeral was held on 13 January in accordance with Jewish burial customs, which require that interment takes place as soon after death as possible. Sharon's body lay in Stadion Knesset Plaza on 12 January until an official state ceremony attended by dignitaries and world leaders held in the Knesset chamber on 13 January. Soon after Ariel Sharon died, in 2015 Messiah appeared to Nathan and in 15 minutes showed him Israel's destiny.
7 November 2015 Rabbi Rami Levy with 15-year-old Nathan on his 15 minutes clinical death experience testify about the end of days and Israel destiny he saw in heaven. Nathan said, Gog is a Bible describes Gog's location of the lands of Gog and Magog in the for northeast of Asia, especially Russia and the northeast corner of the world.
Happy holy day, holy days, and seasons for rejoicing. When Rabbi Yehuda asked me, like every Feast of Tabernacles and Passover, to come here and give a lesson, I had prepared something about the Messiah. And I didn't know that, blessed be his name, that on the path one wants to follow, the Holy Blessed One would send me such help from heaven. The posters were printed and hung. Here, the young man sitting on my right, his name is Nathan. He is not from Jerusalem. I will begin with an introduction and say he went through a very difficult experience, and in a moment he will tell you what he saw and what messages he received. So he has a lot to tell. It's hard for him to tell it. He also doesn't have the exact words to describe what he experienced in Jerusalem. On Monday, the 15th of Tishri this week, on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, he went with his mother to visit his uncle in Modin. Then what happened after that, we will let him tell you what happened because it was him. Shall we begin, Nathan?
Yes.
When you were there, what did you understand was going to happen?
According to what I knew there, I'm sure I know it. When I was up there, I knew what was going to happen in the world. And according to what I knew, what I told you about the Messiah and everything, I also knew that the redemption and the revelation of the Messiah is going to happen very soon. It's like it's going to happen in the very near future. It's imminent. It's like imminent.
In the year 2016, the name of the Messiah as Yahushua was taken up by Jewish Religious Council, or Sanhedrin, in Jerusalem. Since then they are still debating on the name Yeshua. The Jewish Council in Jerusalem, known as Sanhedrin, one of the responsibilities of the Sanhedrin was to identify and confirm Messiah, since they are made up of 72 rabbi. Prime issue of the rabbinical debate is Yeshua's divine identity based on Christianity Trinity doctrine. Yeshuology is still the primary stumbling block for many even after 2,000 years. This matter cannot be overlooked by emphasizing Yeshua's Jewishness. Jewish leaders passionately argued that Yeshua's teaching about himself as the Son of God was blasphemous based on Matthew 26 verses 63 to 66. For this reason, they did not come up with a solution in Messiah's name.
2012 is the year Tafshin Ayin Bet. There are numerous places in the Torah, and all the Mekubalim calculated that the Geula has to come at Tafshin Ayin Bet. I didn't mean necessarily that Mashiach is coming at Tafshin Ayin Bet. Tafshin Ayin Bet is 2012. That the Geula is going to start. And this is the time that this prophecy from Zerubbabel, after the 40 years and the 5 years, that's the time when Mashiach ben Yosef, we're starting the period when Mashiach ben David is going to... Now, there are many different prophecies that show us how we're so close. Now, there's an amazing prophecy by the Gaon from Vilna. And he says that when the Russians are going to cross what's called Meitzarei Bosorov, I think it's called Sea Strait. Sea Strait is when two continents are very close and there's a very narrow path. The Gaon from Vilna said that when the Russians are going to cross the Meitzarei of the Bosorov, you should put your Shabbos clothes on because Mashiach is coming. And you know when that happened? It happened half a year ago. That the entire Russian Navy crossed the sea split of the next between Turkey and I think it's Ukraine. There's that same exact prophecy by another two tzaddikim. 3 tzaddikim said the exact same prophecy. The Gaon from Vilna, Rabbi Israel from Bruzhin, and the holy Jew from Psicha. They all said the same thing, that when the Russian army with their vessels and their ships are crossing these sea strait, There's also a prophecy by the Baal Shem Tov that says the exact same thing, that when the Russians are going to start a confrontation with the Turks, and they're going to cross the same place, then you can start getting ready because the Geula is about to come.
The world is moving towards an unpredictable era ever since the Russia-Ukraine war started. New scenarios are coming up and some of them hint at new wars. In fact, we are now looking at the possibility of a Russia-Turkey naval war. So, why are the navies of Russia and Turkey likely to clash? Let's find out. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanveer. Let's begin. Turkey is playing with fire, quite literally. After the sinking of one of its vessels, Russia is looking to transit its naval vessels in and out of the Black Sea. However, Turkey has closed the Bosporus and the Dardanelles Straits to warships since late February. Russia's patience is meanwhile wearing thin, and if Turkey still insists on keeping the straits closed, we might have a clash on our hands. Russia has become somewhat apprehensive about its Black Sea fleet after one of its frontline assets, guided missile cruiser Moskva, was sunk on Thursday. So, what we do know is that something big has happened in the Black Sea and Moscow is concerned by that. Therefore, it might need to make some major readjustments in the Black Sea region, including reinforcement of its Black Sea fleet by sending in a new warship to replace the Moskva and withdrawing vulnerable assets out of the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. And this is where Turkey comes in. The geographical location of Turkey is such that it sits right across the Black Sea and controls the sea passage from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. So, if a vessel has to transit between the two water bodies, it must pass through the two Turkish straits, Bosporus and the Dardanelles.
Wow. Did Rabbi said that Russia is going to create war with Turkey to cross the strait? Yes.
Under the Montreaux Convention of 1936, Turkey can block ships of belligerent powers from passing through the two straits during wartime. However, vessels returning to their home bases are allowed to pass even during wartime. And Turkey has closed these two straits since late February when the Russian invasion into Ukraine started. This effectively immobilizes Russian Navy's Black Sea fleet. Currently, 4 to 5 Russian warships are deployed in the Black Sea, but neither can they move out nor can the fleet be replenished by other Russian naval assets. It is quite possible that Moscow may have informally requested Turkish authorities to open the two straits for its warships. However, a senior Turkish official told Nikki Asia that Turkey will not allow the entry or exit of naval vessels as long as the war continues. When asked if the conditions change if the war continues, the official said the answer is a clear no. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu too said that the country is still implementing the Montreaux Convention in its entirety. This is putting Moscow in a very awkward position within the Black Sea region. Russia wants to take over Ukraine's Odessa seaport, which serves as a strategic maritime asset in the region. Can Kasapoglu, director of the Security and Defense Studies program, said this will seriously discourage Russia from staging an amphibious assault on Odessa. Kasapoglu added, the odds of such a scenario have significantly diminished. Meanwhile, the US too is provoking Turkey to remain adamant on keeping the Turkish straits closed. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said the government of Turkey has been very responsible in how they've managed their Montreaux responsibilities, the entry into and the exit from the Black Sea. For Moscow, time is running out very quickly. It must find a way to break through Turkish straits, either by negotiating a deal with Turkey or, if Turkey doesn't agree, by using offensive means. Turkey has a history of rubbing Russia the wrong way. This is why Moscow and Ankara had come close to clashing heavily in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh. However, this time Turkey is affecting Putin's Ukraine war, and Putin is unlikely to tolerate that.
An eighth gate, known as the Golden Gate, was sealed off by Suleiman in 1541. According to Jewish prophecy, this is the gate through which the Messiah will enter Jerusalem, so Suleiman sealed it off, hoping to prevent the Messiah from doing so. Here, the Jewish people come to mourn the destruction of their temple. Here they can contemplate the many hardships they have endured throughout their history and pray for the return of the glory of their ancient past. No trees can be planted in the courtyard as long as the third and final temple remains unbuilt. After the destruction of the Jewish temple in 70 AD, the Jews never rebuilt a third temple during all those years. But why? I'm joined by Robert Mandelbaum, who's an eschatologist and Bible researcher. Robert, why was this? Why have the Jews never rebuilt their temple?
Well, thanks for having me, Chris. It's great to be here. After 70 AD, the Jews were scattered throughout all of the world, and there came a time when Jews were not even allowed to live or visit Jerusalem. They've wanted, of course, to rebuild their temple, and thanks to the Temple Institute, which is just behind us, all the plans are already made. The sacrificial altar has been recently constructed. The priest robes have been made. Pretty much everything is ready to go.
Robert, help us understand, why is it so important to the Jewish religion to rebuild their temple? What is the significance of the temple to them?
Well, Chris, there's many important reasons, but the primary reason, the number one reason, is the Jewish people do not believe their Messiah will arrive until that temple is rebuilt.
So what's the problem? With everything set and ready to go, what's to stop the third temple being built? Well, the problem is that building you see over there above the Western Wall. It's called the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock was built by the Arab Caliph Abd al-Malik in 691 AD. It stands on what is known as the Temple Mount, on the Haram al-Sharif.
Hey folks, Eric Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We start today with some very important breaking news. Israel's government is set to collapse. The current Knesset will reportedly dissolve next. Naftali Bennett will no longer be prime minister, and current foreign minister Yair Lapid, interim prime minister until at least October, when it appears that Israel may hold its fifth election in the past 3 years alone. Now, folks, we saw this coming over the past few weeks. We had more and more defections from this far-flung coalition that Naftali Bennett and Lapid formed last June 2021. Bennett was prime minister for about 1 year, almost exactly to the day. As a power-sharing agreement, he was set to serve as prime minister for, I believe, about a year and a half, 18 months, and then Lapid would have assumed the mantle as prime minister after that. That no longer appears to be in the cards because Lapid and Bennett have announced that the government is dissolving. They just couldn't keep this coalition together. Too many deflections. And again, folks, it's not a big surprise. From the moment this coalition was formed last year, people were kind of taking bets on when it would eventually collapse because, as I mentioned, it was so far flung. Yair Lapid is I guess you would say, a center-left kind of guy. Naftali Bennett, clearly on the right wing of the Israeli political spectrum. There was a variety of ideologies in this coalition, people on the right, in the center, and the far left. There was even an Arab Islamist party with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood as part of this coalition. The one thing that united them, though, was their hostility to the former and perhaps future Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu. Now, none of them like Bibi. It was the anyone but Bibi coalition. That's what I've called it. And now Bibi perhaps is waiting in the wings once again. He is the current leader of the Israeli opposition. And in October, if elections do indeed go down, then a few months from now, again, Lapid, interim kind of caretaker prime minister until then. If the elections happen in October, Bibi has to be considered the favorite. Israel is definitely a right-wing leaning country. Take Tel Aviv out of the mix and that Tel Aviv metro area, and Israel certainly is a right-leaning, conservative-leaning country. But in the meantime, perhaps Israel won't get to elections in October because there is a chance that Netanyahu, as the leader of the opposition, can form a government right now. Now, folks, you think American politics are confusing and perhaps European politics. The Israeli political game is kind of like the Wild West. It's all over the place. I say that with affection, but it can be a bit frustrating to try to follow. But Bibi, again, perhaps can form that coalition now, or perhaps Israel goes to elections in October. One thing appears very clear, that this current government, the current coalition that has led Israel over the past year, as this comes at a very precarious moment, obviously, for Israel, as the Bennett government has enforced or employed this octopus doctrine, as they call it, where Israel has really ramped up its attacks against Iran, its nuclear program, various Iranian terror leaders in Iran, on Iranian soil and around the region. And Iran is looking to respond. Over the past few days, we've had reports coming out of Turkey every day, folks. And believe me, I'll get to Russia in a second. But these are breaking news items I wanted to start with, just coming across the wire as I come to you. On Turkish soil, Israeli and Turkish authorities have reportedly worked together to thwart several Iranian revenge plots against Israelis in Turkey. Now, reportedly, although Israel is saying right now to its citizens, hey, don't travel to Turkey, and if you're there, come home, there reportedly are still at least 2,000 Israelis there on the ground in Turkey. And over the weekend, persistent reports coming out of that country that Iranian terror cells were on the ground there looking for Israelis to kill and target. They have not been successful, thank God. And there was a report this morning I read out of the region that these Iranian agents are now leaving Turkey. They've thrown their hands up. They've been had, so to speak. But it shows you, folks, this shadow war between Israel and Iran is coming out of the shadows in a major way. Iran is enriching enough uranium now where if they want the bomb, they will get it unless Israel steps up and does what I believe it will eventually have to do, and that is strike Iran's nuclear facilities. A lot going on right now, folks. Keep this in prayer. Speaking of Damascus, the octopus doctrine, Russia is reportedly planning to introduce a resolution at the UN Security Council condemning Israel. Folks, this is a pretty major deal in my view. Now, what Russia is doing, reportedly, according to Israeli media sources, is they are set to introduce this resolution condemning Israel over its alleged airstrikes on Damascus International Airport about a week and a half ago. Now, just to refresh your memory there, and we covered this on the newscast. If you miss any newscast, remember you can check them all out in our archives on the homepage under newscast. But if you missed it, Israel allegedly bombed Damascus International Airport, specifically crippled the runway there. So it's basically shut down right now. There are no outgoing or incoming flights in or out of Damascus. And Israel did that because, surprise, surprise, the Iranian regime was using Damascus International Airport as a transit point for advanced weapon shipments. They would arrive from Tehran at the airport, and then they would be stored in warehouses, and then they're shipped via truck over land to southern Lebanon into the hands of Hezbollah. And you can bet, folks, that those precision-guided missile parts, PGM for short, are part of these weapons shipments that Iran is sending through Damascus, and that Israel says, hey, this is a red line, we won't allow it. So finally, Israel said, apparently, enough is enough, and they just shut down the airport. We're not going to let you, Iranian regime, transit weapons through this airport that will be used to murder Israelis and be used certainly in a future northern war against Israel. Well, Russia didn't like that too much. Number one, we've got the new UN resolution, more on that in a second, but in the immediate aftermath of these strikes on Damascus airport, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova, she's had a lot to say about Israel in recent months. She called it vicious and provocative. Vicious on the part of Israel. That's the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman. And then a few days ago, the Israeli ambassador to Russia was summoned by Russia in Moscow and grilled, I suppose, over these airstrikes. They said Israel's excuses weren't sufficient. And now we have this UN resolution which apparently will target Israel over a supposed violation of Syrian sovereignty and a violation of international law, and for stirring things up in the region. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. The regime of Vladimir Putin, which is currently violating all sorts of international law and then some, and murdering civilians in Ukraine, is condemning Israel over defending itself against enemies in Syria, which are at Israel's doorstep. Again, you can't make this stuff up. We have Vladimir Putin's regime talking about human rights and respecting the sovereignty of other nations and international law. That's pretty rich. But what Israel is doing right now is preemptively protecting itself, again, from a massive Iranian and Hezbollah weapons and military buildup at its doorstep. And when Iran and Hezbollah talk about eliminating the Jewish state, wiping it off the map, guess what, folks? They mean it. And Israel takes them very seriously. If the 20th century, the century of a guy like Stalin, a former Soviet leader, Hitler, Mao, Saddam, Fidel, the Kim dynasty in North Korea, and all the rest, if that century taught us anything, it's that when evil men tell you they want to kill you, you should believe them and take them at their word. That's exactly what the Iranian regime and Hezbollah have been telling Israel for years. And guess what? Israel wisely heeds their warnings, and they are acting to defend their citizens in Syria. Well, Russia doesn't like this too much. Number one, we have thousands of Russian troops in Syria right now. And number two, they are closely aligned with Israel's greatest enemies in the world. That includes Iran, Hezbollah, and the Assad regime in Syria. So Russia, I think, is feeling more pressure from its allies there, from its radical jihadist allies, Iran and Hezbollah, and from the Assad regime as well. And they're saying, hey, you're letting the Zionist entity continue to pound us and embarrass us. When are you going to step up and have our backs and do something about it? Remember, Iran and Syria have stood staunchly by Russia as it's been isolated on the world stage. They have stood by Putin over his invasion of Ukraine. So they're asking for Putin, I believe, now to return the favor and kind of have their backs and perhaps even shut off Syrian airspace to Israeli fighter jets so they would no longer have freedom of movement to operate against those Iranian weapons shipments. And Iran's attempts also to drive to the Golan Heights along the Israel-Syria border. We'll see what happens with this UN resolution. Israeli officials are reportedly confident it will not go anywhere at the Security Council, that the U.S. will vote against it. But folks, it gives you an idea. Do you see which way the winds are blowing? We've been documenting this for months now, whether it's over Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, Ukraine, Syria, of course. Russia and Israel have been on a diplomatic collision course, and the relationship has been unraveling. For now, this is a diplomatic collision course. I believe a day is coming where Russia and the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, lays out this war of Gog and Magog scenario. It's more than a scenario. It is coming. And I believe Russia will lead that, as Ezekiel calls it, latter days, confederation of nations that come against Israel. In the meantime, know this, that this latter days confederation that comes against Israel meets its demise on the mountains of Israel. They don't get very far as the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, intervenes in the affairs of men for the whole world to see in a way he really hasn't done in 2,000 years. Fasten your seatbelts, stay in prayer, be encouraged. We're not to have a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Remember the words of the Apostle Paul that God planted on his heart. So, hey, thanks for joining us here today on the newscast. We had a lot to cover, much more coming tomorrow. Until then, God bless you. And remember, never